we're going to be talking about another kind of issue with real estate tonight, which is ethics. Like I've told you before, I've been around for 25 years or so, and I know of a whole lot of people are really straight up wonderful and ethical. And over time, I have also met people who take advantage of other people and are anything but ethical. And so I think it's a real issue. And frankly, it is becoming more of an issue in our business. People don't trust in general. There's a lot of skepticism. And there's a lot of people out there who are doing things that maybe not all of them intentionally, but are doing things that cause all of us to look bad. And so I think it really helps to really talk about ethics and integrity and how we conduct ourselves in this business going forward. And so I want to turn that over to Jane and Sharon, who are going to talk about ethics in real estate. Thanks,
Hey
you
guys,
guys.
thanks for being here. Appreciate that, Nicole. We are having a very, very loud, bad thunderstorm, so I don't know if you guys can hear us okay. If you can't, just put it in the chat. We're kind of talking at the top of our lungs now.
And can you hear me okay using Jane's speaker so it don't squelch? I can hear you both very well.
Okay, perfect. So we've been doing the Teaching Tuesdays a little over a year and a half now. Just we joined up with very honored to join up Nicole and James as their counterparts in residential. So Virtual REI Academy has been putting on these Teaching Tuesdays for this year and a half. We're starting to do some webinars and maybe some live trainings and different things just to kind of build a little community here. And as always, it's up on YouTube. And tonight we're just we're going to talk about ethical real estate investing, because you can do a whole lot of things in real estate. You know, you can buy, you can sell, you can, you know, have a million properties, but you know, if you're not ethical, that's not cool, and it's not cool to take advantage of people and do things on the slim shady. So we're gonna do a little PowerPoint, and then we'll probably have some questions, and folks can kind of tell some stories maybe that they have, and we'll go from there.
A lot of people who do unethical things in real estate, sure, you know, they think that it's always a get rich quick scheme and you're going to make money fast. And we all know that you got to put the time and effort into it. And, you know, it takes money to make money. And, you know, there's a lot of strategies that you can do in real estate, but people think that they can be unethical or not divulge all the information or cut corners, and that's going to get them money quickly, which it will work up front, but it'll eventually catch up to you. And then you realize quickly it's not worth it. It's destroying your reputation, destroying your company, and your whole investment career just went down the drain. So it's not worth short-term money for your integrity. And like an example, Jane and I came from law enforcement backgrounds, and you know, we were very upset with officers that were out there that were doing things the wrong way. So the ethical officers got together and rallied to remove that officer off the streets and out of the department. You know, they might like go into a house and there might be some cash there, and they think, oh, I can just take this cash and nobody will realize it. Yeah, you might make $5,000 or $10,000 right then and there, but is it worth your whole career? You know, add up all the money that you can make in real estate investing in your law enforcement career. Is it worth that short-term cash right then and there? It's really not. It's not worth that at all. And when Jane and I first started and gotten involved in real estate, we did not know much about real estate at all. So we got out there and learned a lot first. Learned from people like Nicole and James. Luckily, a lot of the people we learned from were on the up and up. They did things the right way and they were ethical. So we, you know, did many visits to different houses, looked at the houses, seen the way that people conducted themselves, interviewed successful investors that we looked up to, talked to a lot of GCs and handy people, and just to get a grasp of, you know, how to conduct things accurately in the right way. And when you are doing this, you also want to provide value to that person too, because these people are taking time out of their busy schedule to talk to you as you're making, you know, looking around the houses and all. So you always, that's one thing that I would say at the very beginning. When you add value to that person, then it'll come back to you. You always want to make sure that you're not, I'm sorry, it's very loud. It's getting louder. That you're not always the one getting, you know, trying to get and obtain information and not give. You want to be the giver. And then we got into wholesaling first because we realized we'll learn a lot more there. We'll realize how to acquire properties at a good price and, you know, talk to a lot of investors that way and grow our, you know, grow our list. And one of the things we heard over and over again from investors when we talked to and interviewed investors was that they get frustrated with wholesalers who did not divulge all the information and divulge the accurate information and, you know, provide, you know, quality in their paperwork. So we learned very quickly that we were going to do things the right way. We provided the good, the bad, the ugly, and, you know, everything. We took pictures of everything, took videos, you know, and explained what needs to be done and, you know, laid it all out. And, you know, if you're a wholesaler and you're not providing all that information and it looks, you know, you're putting deals that on paper look great out there and they're getting bought up, they're, you know, eventually that's going to come back and nobody's going to use you as a wholesaler anymore. Like I'm sure you guys hear these loud thunder booms.
And that's like something we still to this day, you know, like I'll take somebody off I won't even read their email if they've sent me a property, you know, and they make it look like, you know, it needs $10,000 of work, and then you actually take time out of your day to drive there and look at the property, and it needs 50,000, and it needs a new roof, and it needs stuff that they didn't divulge. Like, I'm just not even going to deal with that person anymore. It's a time waster.
Exactly.
So, and we early on, you know, we didn't want to be a time waster. You know, I mean, it is what it is. You need to get the property under contract for, you know, the right amount. So don't just, you know, put any amount on there and then try to sell it.
Yep. You want to show the good, the bad, and the ugly. So, you know, the first slide talks about honesty and transparency, which is what we're talking about now. Provide that accurate information, add all the relevant details in there. Do not exclude anything and avoid any misrepresentations. And this reminds me of at one point, we were buying some tax liens and tax deeds in Florida. And it's this investor reached out to us and asked us if we wanted to buy a tax deed. It was a really good property in the middle of the state. It looked great on paper. Everything looked perfect. So we were going to take over and buy this tax deed, and it ended up we would have obtained the property. So we were really happy with it. If you know much about like tax liens and tax liens and tax deeds, you rarely acquire the property. Well, this one we would have been able to acquire. So we were excited about it. But this investor knew about several liens against the property that added up to more than what we were going to pay for the property and more than what the property was worth. Turned out later they did know the information, but they didn't tell the end buyers because they knew that it wouldn't come back on the traditional lien search that the title attorneys conduct. Luckily, we did more digging and more research because it looked too good to be true. And we were wondering why this investor was letting go of this property. They ended up sustaining their company for a while, but now I don't hear from that person or see that person anymore anywhere. So I guess they did it enough times to people and it caught up to them. And fair treatment. You want to treat everybody fair. everybody that's involved in the transaction, from, the seller, the buyer, and then the end buyer or the tenant. You want to treat everybody the way you want to be treated. You want, to have a good situation for everybody along the lines, making money, and avoid discriminations of any kind. You don't want to get involved with that, because then, first of all, it's not good. And it's not right to treat, people with discrimination. And then that word gets around quickly too. There was one, community that we were invested with, that was in the outskirts of Huntsville, Alabama. And there's a large Latino community in there. And a lot of people were not working with the Latino community. Well, Jane and I, we got in there, bought some houses, and right away we worked with the Latino community. We hired contractors and handymen that were Latinos. We put some people in the house that were Latinos, and quickly, that spread. And now we work with people in that area outside of Huntsville, Alabama, and to the point where now we're working with another investor that's very successful there. We're actually in a couple months going to teach at their webinar. No, not a seminar. I'm sorry. Teach at their seminar. So it really does. It goes, respecting people and treat everybody, like you want to be treated. It does. Your name gets out there and it gets spread quickly. Do you want to add anything to this?
Yep.
Okay. Just jump in if you want to add anything.
Yep, I have to talk too loud with the thunder.
I know. And more on respecting tenants. You want to provide that safe and comfortable and the living conditions for that tenant. If they'll stay longer, they'll be happier, you'll have less turnover, and respond quickly to those maintenance requests. Actually, today, there was somebody on one of our Facebook pages that they're a tenant, and they were complaining because they were having trouble getting a hold of the landlord because their air condition went up, and they live in Florida. So you can imagine how hot it is. And they've been trying to get a hold of them all weekend, and they were unable to get a hold of that landlord. That's just, that's not the way you want to conduct business. Them and their family is sitting in a very hot house, and it's been over 90 degrees with high humidity here all weekend. So you can imagine how they feel. And I'm sure they're not going to stay. Once their lease is up, they're gone. And ensure both parties understand the lease agreement and all the expectations from the beginning. We have different stories about slumlords. I'm sure we've talked about them in the past. And then we have stories about people who do things the right way. We have another friend that Daniel knows, that she has got a very successful, she offers affordable housing to people in North Carolina. And just today on her Facebook post, she was talking about how she was sold one of her buildings, and she got a couple other buildings around the area. And some of her tenants actually, once their lease was up, left those new owners and found where she was bought the other buildings and went right into those apartments, because she treats them the right way. She provides a good, safe space and takes care of maintenance requests and is very fair. So, it does make a huge difference. Do you want to talk about any good stories or bad stories? Okay. And then points to ponder. You know how Jane and I we're very, very upfront about, wanting, very caring about the environment and the impacts to the environment. So, you really want to think about how you're impacting the environment when you do, especially new builds, and remain eco-friendly and have sustainable living practices. It's not only good for the environment and long-term sustainability, but in the long term, it's also cheaper. And, everybody here, we're here to make money and cut costs. Well, the eco-friendly way really does cut costs and save money, especially in the long run. It was a story here, which I was really shocked about, how many times that people build on nature preserves or protected areas. And, you know, they say that they're going to protect like the turtles or the birds that live on there, and then they don't. You go there and you watch them build, and they tear up the ponds and the habitat of these animals, and it's not the way you do it.
And I think Mother Nature is mad at the builders or something today because she is going crazy.
I'm hoping you guys can still hear me. It's gotten louder and louder. I'm trying to speak as loud as I can. Please raise your hands or let us know in the chat if you can't hear. Did anybody say anything?
Nope.
Okay,
Good.
either they can't hear at all or everything's all right. And make sure you stay on top of the local, state, and federal laws and regulations, and that you're compliant. That can catch up to you fast. Some things that if you're not in compliance, you will get fined compounding daily, and that will catch up really quickly. And always keep learning and stay informed of all the changes. And don't get involved in any unethical or illegal practices, especially like things like illegal evictions, because that will come back and bite you on the butt. And there's changes come down the pike pretty fast, especially when there's different political parties taking over office. Like that one, what's the Transparency Act.
Yep, the
Like that-
Corporate Transparency Act, which we talked about with Joe not so long ago.
Yeah, and that, I mean, look how quickly that came down the pike.
And just a side note on that, are you guys, if you know other people in different businesses besides real estate, because we ran into that, just talking about the Corporate Transparency Act, and a lot of other small businesses haven't even heard of that. So that's something, if you have friends, family, whatever, with LLCs, you might want to just kind of tune them up about that.
We have been spreading the word ourselves with people that we know, the small businesses, and we do run into a lot of people with a lot of small businesses, all of us in our profession, cleaning people, handymen, handywomen, contractors, people that are clean out your houses, landscapers. So there's a lot of people that you can spread the word to and really make, do good for people and help people out. That's the name of the game. We're out here to help each other out and do good, and all of us, make money as we're, going along and do it the right way. I can tell a funny story how we accidentally kicked somebody out illegally.
We're recording.
Oh, we're recording. Never mind. Oh, shoot. And then we've actually put on Facebook asking people if, when they're ready to acquire a house or they're trying to rent out a house or owner finance it, if they speak with the neighbors. And we had a little mix of, some people do speak with the neighbors, some people don't, some people haven't thought about it, but we've really had good luck with speaking with the neighbors, and it's made a big difference for us. Sometimes, they'll really help you out. They'll, reach out to you if you give them your number or way to get a hold of you. They'll reach out to you if they see activity in your house. Sometimes if, the grass is overgrown, you can pay them to cut the grass while they're cutting theirs. So they're a really good resource that a lot of people overlook. And we've used them from the very beginning. We just, door knocking and everything. So don't dismiss neighbors, and invest in local businesses and support the local GCs. And the property management, it goes a long way. My brother, he was just telling me a story that he has a place in Tennessee, and it's like a small little town, and he uses local businesses and local people and GCs, as he's building his property on this house. And another guy down the street does not do that, will go outside the town to another town trying to save a buck. Well, there was a major flood that went through both of their properties. Well, the people rallied together and went to my brother's property and took care of the issue on his property and ignored the other guy down the street. So it's, it really makes a difference to really support local. It just does well for everyone. Yeah. Anything? And we just want to let you know about upcoming events, virtual real estate investing webinar Jane and I are doing. Please mark your calendars. It's on July 20th from 12 to 4 Eastern time. And it's just small little $27. And also check out Virtual REI Academy for the online course that has a lot of information and it goes into further detail from a lot of different investors who are very successful. And we're constantly adding content. Thank you, everybody. I want to open it up to see if anybody wants to share their stories of how ethical investing impacted you or someone you know, or story about who somebody might have not have done the right thing and how it backfired on them.
I don't have any unethical examples, thankfully, but I was kind of listening when you guys were saying make things comfortable for your tenants. And one thing I've done is most of my examples are always going to be from the shared home because so many all kinds of situations come out from there. But recently I heard that the common spaces, they weren't really getting cleaned. So I kind of, put a cleaner in place, like paid for by landlord. And I think the result of that has been a more cohesive and like a better environment generally. So I try to listen to see like what kind of needs they might have.
That's actually a great idea.
Yeah. I mean, as long as it still works with the cash flow, of course, which for me, like the juice was worth the squeeze. And then to your guys' points about the neighbors, my neighbors of that house, there's about point 5 acres of just land behind it, and they have this big truck, the grass cutting, well, not a truck, the grass cutting vehicle that you drive, and they just drive it, and they do it all the time, just cuz. And it's because, neighbors want their neighborhoods to look nice, so it's in their best interest too to look out for homes and the look of it within their neighborhoods. So that's something I try to think about when I'm kind of thinking about home improvement and what relationships I could build and leverage as I'm looking out for my tenants' interests.
Right. And that's one of the good, like with virtual or remote investing, because the neighbor doesn't want a crappy yard either, because they got to live next to it. So a lot of times we do find that, they're going to look out, they're helping us, but they're also looking out because they want their property to be the best it can be. And they don't want a bunch of nonsense there, parties or whatever else. So we've always found neighbors are a good source, and we give them our personal cell phone, and that's always worked out, because messages get lost and, people don't call back, but, we've had pretty good luck with the neighbors. I guess the bottom line with this whole thing is just, always do the right thing and do the right thing when nobody's looking. It's easy to do it when, everybody's watching you, but, when things, and it always gets tough when, things are going bad, that's when you see the character and see, because not everything's going to go right. As we know, real estate is like a roller coaster ride sometimes. So, just doing the right thing and doing the right thing by people and all people is going to serve you well and keep your reputation intact. Even when times get hard, sometimes you just got to buckle up and, if something went wrong, you just got to say it went wrong and figure out, how to fix it and go from there.
Definitely.
I do like that idea about the cleaning crew, because you could even, when you do your checks and their house seems dirty, then you can offer like for a small price to add into the I said the mortgage, I'm so used to that,
The
to
rent?
add it, the rent,
Yeah.
to add that in there and say, now you can get, bi-weekly cleaning or, bi-monthly cleaning, or something, like a package you could offer. So that's actually, you got a good idea there. You could expand upon it and could be another area for cash flow.
Yeah, no, definitely. I guess I haven't really quite looked at it that way because I first thought of including cleaners in the repertoire because I've actually had two hoarders on in two separate rentals. So, you can't really get out of that mess without professional help.
Yeah.
So, one of them I mandated like you have to have a cleaner, otherwise I'm gonna have to ask you to leave. Um, I hope that's ethical, but it was just like, sorry, you need to leave because you're not taking care of the space.
Mm,
So that's where I first ran into that. Yeah, I've had hoarders, I've had drug problems, I've had it all in a couple of short years. So, uh,
Wow.
I feel like I'm ready for it all. Like the rest of my real estate career, I can handle it.
There you go.
There you go.
Mhm.
Learn a lot from the beginning and tweak things as you go to make it better. So
Hopefully, yes.
but the important thing is you're out there doing it. A lot of people, they'd have analysis paralysis, be nervous to do it because they don't want, they don't know how to deal with the issues. But when we all start out, we have issues and it continues as we go along, but then you learn, you tweak, change things around and then continue on.
Yes.
That's good that you're doing.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Nicole, I'm sure you might have a story or two.
I have more than a few stories. So a couple of them I can share. They're not necessarily the positive. So I don't care if this is on recorded, but I actually learned a really hard lesson from, it's been a few years ago now, but was working with some people who were trying to get started, and I was trying to help them along. And so was doing assistance, and my name ended up on a couple of documents signed, even though I wasn't part um, of the buying. But they didn't do some things they were supposed to do with this property had a well, and the well was contaminated, and they didn't fix it. And I was yelling and screaming and yelling and screaming and stomping my feet, and nobody really would get out and get that. And we ended up getting sued, and it was actually our fault. We should have gotten sued. Shame on us. And of course, I ended up with, because I had looked like I had the deep pockets, the one who ended up in most trouble, even though I was trying to help people out. So the lesson learned from that is if you have a problem like that, fix it. Don't put tenants in for things like that because the truth of the matter is that property should not have been tenanted until you had potable water. Just shouldn't have been. And so shame on us, right?
Right.
So even when you try and do the right thing, sometimes it doesn't work out. So, but it also makes the point that I think Sharon was making is that if you have an issue, fix it now. Don't sit on it because it doesn't end well.
Only gets worse.
Yep, it does. So two things that are going on in Maryland that I think are kind of interesting. So this state is not an easy one to invest in, and anybody who's been around me for a while knows what I think about buying rental property in Maryland. So, so a couple of things the state is doing, and I am not trying to come down on either side of this, but I want you to think about this ethically, and from the side of the seller, from the side of the investor, from the side of the state. So one of them has to do with wholesaling. There is an impetus in the state here where if you don't have a realtor's license, you can't wholesale a property, right? That's come about because a lot of people, when the market started getting great and things went up, people would go see homeowners and they would get their property under contract. So the person couldn't sell it to anybody else. And then they would go and try and sell their contract to a rehabber like Jane or Sharon, right? But they didn't know their craft, and they offered to pay way too much, right? And then they couldn't find anybody to buy their contract, to step into their contract. And so it expired and ended up having the homeowner basically stuck without being able to sell their property for a month or two while this newbie investor tried to sell their contract. That's led to things being in the state now where people are saying, if you're not a realtor, you shouldn't be wholesaling. So that's an issue of, if we don't kind of take care of our own, in my opinion, and make sure that people know what they're doing when they want to get into wholesaling. And I am not talking about, kind of pie in the sky. I'm talking about really realistic. Then sometimes the state steps in and you don't like what happens. So the other is something kind of similar. So a lot of us, if you've been to many classes, you hear these stories of somebody. So this is also wholesaling and rehabbing kind of things, of somebody who got a property under contract from a homeowner who was trying to sell their house or was in a bind, and they paid the least possible amount they could. So they paid 40% or 35% or 40% of what the property's after repair value is, right? And then they go and they sell their contract, and everybody is applauding them for making $50,000 on their wholesale deal, or making $100,000 on their rehab, right? The point that is being made from the other side is that we as investors know what we're doing, and we're dealing with people who don't know what they're doing, homeowners who don't know what their property is worth, who don't know how this system works. And we are taking advantage. And the story from the other side is, what we're doing is we are stealing their equity that they have built up in their house over 20, 30 years. So they have $100,000 in equity in their property, and we're taking the property for what it is worth, or for what and the homeowner is not getting anything or very little. And so the other side, the state and people and the realtors, are saying, this is not fair. You are taking advantage of people who don't know what they're doing, which is a lack of ethics. Investor side says they don't have to sign a contract. I'm not taking advantage of them. They're an adult, right? What I would say is we need to think about that, because to me, both sides have some truth. But if you're making $50,000 or $100,000 on a wholesale deal, are you getting a little too greedy? When part of that actually should belong to the person who has owned this house for a long time and is now in some kind of trouble. So I would just ask us to think about those two things a little bit in terms of ethics. One of the worst things that ever happened to me when I was getting started, my first big property was in Boise, Idaho, and it wasn't so big. It was 40 units, but to me it was huge. And it needed rehab. And I didn't know anything, and I hired a property management company who was going to manage the property and oversee the rehab, and they hired a local contractor that they knew to do the work. And they took great advantage of me to the point where, it was basically $500,000. And if I hadn't had some other real estate, I'd have been in trouble, right? I was in trouble. It took 10 years to work that property out of that issue. So if any of you ever wonder why I'm almost rabid about wanting, kind of project management professionals and not letting property managers manage my rehabs or my repositioning, that's why that's still painful to me, right? That was one of the biggest lessons I ever learned. So we all have those stories. And if you're in real estate long enough, something like that is going to happen. Maybe not the same thing, but, bad things happen. And I think just keeping your integrity and keeping an eye on your ethics and how you present yourself is really pretty important. And I guess that's all I kind of want to really say about that. So I'm sure that there's some other people who have some stories. Daniel, by any chance, I'm going to pick on you. Michael, do either any of you have any stories about ethics, good, bad, indifferent? Anybody?
Wayne?
I mean, I could tell some more,
Wayne?
but
Oh, Daniel Brody, do you have any stories that you're willing to share? Wayne, anybody else who's done some investing for a while?
At
I guess-
one point, I made an offer on a house. It was an interesting situation. My tenants offered to buy the house that they were renting from me. And they suggested we use the same realtor. And initially, it sounded like a good idea, but it turned out that I felt that she was looking more for their benefit than mine. It was not illegal for her to do that at that point. I think things have changed. But I felt a little bit that some things were handled not as adequately as they should have been.
Mhm.
Maybe she was not as upfront with some things with me. Because I felt that she was representing them more than me. That's my opinion.
I think
Yeah,
that's a good
I can
point.
see. Yep.
Go
Go
ahead,
ahead,
Jane.
Nicole.
No, you go.
I was just gonna say, yeah, that one's a tough one because you know that they're gonna one person. I mean, how can you with the agent? They're gonna sway one way or another, so they're always gonna, look at one person different and probably sway the benefits towards them. So I think they do have a you have to sign something.
Yeah, each
for
party has to sign
has to
for
sign
that,
but
and then,
still.
as you said, some states allow it and others do not, but it's gotta be full disclosure, but you're right, it's, doesn't benefit both parties, they're 50%, they'll. Nicole, did you have a point to make with that as well?
The only thing I was going to say with that is that the other point that brings out is that people can fairly easily get the sense that they're not being treated fairly, and then it kind of is downhill from there. So it's may not be illegal, but it may not also, so people's perceptions roll into this a lot.
Right.
And so it's a reason to kind of really keep your, just
I
keep,
understand what you're saying.
yeah.
I guess the one thing that we found is sometimes we didn't listen to our gut, so to speak.
Mhm.
you know, a lot of, if we look back on things and then, you know, it's easy to, you know, go back and say, wow, that wasn't right or this wasn't right. But typically that's, you know, if you have a bad feeling or something's off in the beginning, it's not going to get any better. So we're kind of learning that, you know, that's a key indicator if something's off in the beginning. And then just to go with our gut, because 9 times out of 10, our gut has always been right when we go back and say, oh, well, we, you know, I mean, now they got to be approved by Bodie. So, like, if you don't like animals or you don't like him, then you're not going to get very far with us. But it's just, you know, just go with your gut, on a lot of things.
And as
And
police officers, you guys developed quite a good gut.
I tell you, you know, we did there, but real estate, man, jeez, I got more stories than we got time.
Yeah, yeah, don't we all? So, yeah.
I know, and it is true what Jane said when you Monday night quarterback and you look, the signs were there, but when you're in the middle of it and it's happening, they're not as glaring as looking back. So that's another
Yeah.
reason why it's good to have other people that you can talk to and give the whole story to them, because they might be able to see what's going on more quickly than you can, because you're in the middle of it, and it's harder when you're in the middle of the situation than when you're on the outside kind of looking in.
One of the things I have certainly learned the hard way over the years is that, um, you know, it used to be that, you know, you have a couple people you worked with all the time and you kind of just, you got sloppy about, at least I got sloppy about making sure everything was documented. And I got bitten enough times that I just don't want to do anything anymore without something in writing about what the deal is, and to really do my a little bit of due diligence, because it's, you know, I mean, the one that harkens back to the Boise issue was kind of a hard lesson, but I've learned, you know, the same thing has happened other times, and I just sometimes I wonder if I'm ever really going to learn. So it's kind of, Daniel, have you got anything?
I was on the phone. I wasn't really listening.
Oh, we're trying to sort of see if you got any stories you want to share about ethical issues or things that went wrong or things that went right that you do to try and make sure that you're above board and stuff. We all
Not
have
really.
stories.
Yeah, I'm not that deep yet.
Oh, okay.
Mine's more, contractors not doing what they're supposed to do, telling you they're doing something, I've had people tell me that Section 8 says do this, this, and this, and then you read the letter and it's not on there that you have to do it. So, they're milking the wallet, they're milking the clock, basically. Trying to just get paid to do something that's
Mm.
not even existent. Um, More about the contractors. Contractors. That's the biggest thing that I run into. They all want to charge $1 million. I mean, you pay for good work, don't get me wrong, but when you make stuff up
Mhm.
or you want to do more than what is necessary, and if you don't have the people in place that know what they're looking at, right? Say a property manager that just walks in there and just says, "Oh, I'll fix it. I don't care what it is. I don't own it. Just fix it." So I had a pipe in the basement of a unit a couple weeks ago. They went in there and they pulled like river rocks out of the drain in the basement. I mean, like they were at the bottom of a river for a long time. Come to find out, the tenant's kid was shoving the rocks in the drain in the basement.
Oh,
And then they were calling Section 8 complaining about the drain being clogged. So it's like, all those fun things.
yeah,
Um,
been there, done that.
But yeah, it's most of my woes are the the contractor or somebody
Mm.
doing their job or
Mm.
overcharging or just doing it half-assed.
That's still ethics, you know?
Yep. Yep. But
Joe, are you still there? Hey, there's Nashra. Is Joe still there?
He is. He just went upstairs for a second. I can let you know when he's back.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask if you guys see anything, if he is a lawyer, sees anything that has any insights on any of this. But
Perhaps.
no worry.
Mhm. Joe?
No, that's okay. Don't call him down. That's okay.
Yeah, because you're right. Sometimes, it's a little unethical, but then it's bordering on illegal. So, there's
Yeah.
that too. There's, a lot of things that are gonna happen that are illegal that, not only is it unethical, it's illegal. So I'm getting that.
Just like what Daniel was saying, if you're paying for a service and they're not doing to the full potential of the service, or, saying that things need to be done that don't need to be done to get paid more, could be illegal too, on top of unethical, so. And
I
then,
was thinking about the contractors as we were talking about it. Have you guys ever had any experience with people who pretend to be licensed, but then
Mhm.
you do a check and they're not actually licensed? I've run into that because I'll always look for different quotes because I don't want to be overcharged by one person. That's something now I like regularly. Anytime there's a new contact, I'll always make sure they're not saying something that isn't true to me.
oh yeah, that happens all the time.
Hmm.
Some states you don't need a license. In Texas, you could build a whole dang house and sell it tomorrow, and you don't need a license.
Really?
wow.
Yeah.
I should buy there.
Well, I mean,
Easy to say until the tornadoes come.
Yeah.
Tiffany, she don't have a builder's license, right? She's there.
Interesting.
She's in Texas. You don't need a license out there. You just build. And I guess
Wow.
they rely on the municipalities to do their job. But really, if you really read the fine print, the municipality is not the one that the liability falls on in any case.
Mhm.
Right? The house burns down a week later. The municipality is like,
Interesting.
problem. So
Good point.
they're, the government, they're never on the hook. But they got to make sure they look at it. There was a house built here in North Carolina. I think it was out there by like Statesville. And the whole thing, he was a licensed general contractor, everything. Built the entire house, sold the people the house, and then the floor started caving in.
Wow.
The joists didn't meet the girders. And
Oh.
they were undersized and all this stuff. Meanwhile, the guy's got an inspection report. So who's at fault there? Contractor didn't check. Yeah, he's at fault. The government,
Inspector.
the guy signed the documents. He didn't do his job. All he had to do was go under there and say, well, these are 2x12s, not 2x8s. You can't hold a house up with 2x8s. But you know what I mean? They got to hit the girder and they don't hit it. And it's going to fall eventually. Put enough weight on it, So, but that's what people do. I mean, he hired shoddy subcontractors and he didn't look behind them, and the inspector didn't do his job. So you can't go after the city. The only one left is the contractor. But you're right. He's completely at fault because he didn't do his job. So, but that's the license thing. If you're in a state that needs a license, then you're going to get people that claim they are. Here anything under 30,000, you don't need it. Anything over 30,000, you do need it. Now, plumber,
I
HVAC,
hear you mean the
electrical-
state of Texas.
No, I'm in North Carolina.
Okay.
Texas, you don't need a general contractor's license at all. You can build an entire house.
But
Ground up.
one of the things we do, and your point is well taken. My goddaughter's grandmother, so one of my neighbors, hired somebody to do their roofs who purported to be a licensed contractor. And I said, you need to go check. You need to check to make sure that they're actually licensed. Well, she didn't. And they fell through the roof. They actually fell through the roof.
Wow.
And so, and there was, you know, insulation everywhere, fell through the bedroom, through the roof into the master bedroom, lots and lots and lots of damage. And so when they went to sue, the contractor actually said it was your fault because the person who did it before didn't do it up to today's codes, even though when it was built in 75, the codes were a little bit different back then, right?
Yeah.
And so it's always trust but verify. And it's not just the license, but also is the person who's doing the work, because sometimes they have people using somebody else's license. And I always also check the insurance. So is this going to be insured with me as an additional insured?
Well, you got that too, and then a general contractor in the essence is,
Mhm.
if they're good, they're just a paper pusher. Everybody
Yeah.
else is a subcontractor, right? So they got to have insurance all the way up the line. So, you know, the people come on the job, you know, you got to ask the general contractor, hey, I know you have insurance, but do all your people have insurance?
So
You know, I mean, I remember reading a story when I was a kid, and it was in Baltimore City, and the people broke into her townhouse, a row house, whatever you call them down there, and they fell through the stairs because she didn't take care of her house. They were robbing her, and they fell down the stairs, broke their leg, and sued her and won because she didn't take care
yeah,
of her. You know, as a little bit off topic, but yeah, you got to check the insurance and all the way down the line, right? So you can check the general contractor, he's licensed, but you know, you hire him and then he hires a plumber. Is that plumber licensed? Or is the general contractor pulling all the permits and he's liable for all the permits? So in North Carolina, there's 3 different levels of general contractor.
Mm.
And if you're the bottom level, you can't pull a plumbing permit or electrical permit or whatever. If you're the top level, you can pull the master permit and then everybody works under you and you're the one that's liable for everything.
So I want to, one more kind of point is that workers' comp. If people don't have workers' comp, particularly, and something untoward happens, it's going to fall back on you, the homeowner. Unless the GC is carrying workers' comp, because it's really, and so there's just a lot of things to be aware of. But I actually had a question for Joe there, if he has a minute. Are you hearing anything else going on about what's coming down about real estate in Maryland, or what are some of the more common ethical issues that you tend to see related to real estate, if you have any stories or any kind of insights?
Ethics wise, I don't think I could add much of significance there. It's just that for at least for lawyers, especially, the ethical standards are much, much higher, especially when it comes to, making statements of fact. Like you absolutely, and especially in terms of civility. You can't. You really just have to be very measured in how you speak and how you write. Not that the average person would be held to that, but the people you hire, if they're professionals, they'll be held to a certain standard. And sure, if they do or say something that breaks their rules of professional conduct, you may be able to get them disciplined, but that's just more time and money that you're spending, hashing out this bitter situation.
Yeah. Manny has a question here. Let me thanks for the, I would like to register for the land trust class and was wondering if it's too early. Yeah, we have to reset the dates. Something we didn't get it out like we were supposed to. it's already done. It just, we needs to have some dates so we can get it out there, but we should get that done in the next couple of weeks. And we'll try and get that to you, Manny. So,
Thank you.
Cool. Any more questions or comments, stories? We'll call it a night. On once. And the thunderstorm has stopped, of course,
Finally.
now,
Sorry.
Yeah.
so we don't have to yell. All right, guys. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks for being here. Appreciate everybody staying and being here, and we'll see you next week.
thanks, everybody.
Have a
Thank
good one.
you.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Thank you.
Good
See
night.
you next
Thank you.